Let's go.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Wednesday, November 19th, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson, and this is All In Horns presented to you by Rogue Sports Network. And Jake, some I would say fairly interesting big news coming around in a couple of weeks, maybe even as soon as next week. Going to keep it under wraps for now, but there will be some changes to the show, not necessarily changes to Jake or I, but there'll be some changes and things, I think, for the good. So stay tuned for that. And hopefully we'll bring that news to you in about a week or so. So just kind of, be prepared for that. Today's episode, we're probably going to be a little loopy. I think Jake and I are both running on very limited hours of sleep. I've got she's not sick, but like an allergy kick for one of my girls, and she's just been up all night for the last like 2 nights, just not being able to breathe. So, I'm running on limited hours. Jake, running on limited hours. And so we're just ready to get to bed at this point. But the show must go on. Who says bloggers don't work hard? The podcast business is not for the weak-hearted. We persevere just as much as any athlete does.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly you're loopy because we're going to discuss that you have a premature button pressing problem.
So you know what actually happened? Was I had already entered the title of the episode, and I thought I was about to do that a second time, and I was hitting the button. The button's in the same spot. It goes from create episode to recording, and I already hit create episode, and then I hit recording. And I thought I was about to start typing in the name of the episode, but I was like, oh, well, here we go. We're about to record. So that was the explanation for the giggles to start the episode.
Yeah, no. Well, also, this is like the third time this week that you've done something with the button incorrectly.
You would think that after
a weekly thing.
You would think that after 300 plus episodes, I'd have it figured out by now. I don't.
No.
It's not something that, I think it's one of those things, Jake, you either have it or you don't. And I don't think I have the button pressing. I don't have that gene. I don't have that clutch gene in me.
You do not have the it factor. You lack the it factor. Very much. You know
so. that Peter Griffin meme where he's going through the stable of horses and he's like, mm-hmm. And then the horse has sunglasses on and he's like, I don't know what it is, but you have got it. I'm not that horse. You're not that guy, pal.
No, you don't have it. You are not that guy, pal. But it's okay. We recovered. We were able to start the show.
Yeah.
And obviously we have some unfortunate news with the Anthony Hill injury. Something about hand injuries this year. It feels like everyone on teams is getting hand and finger injuries. And Anthony Hill, it sounds like it's something with his hand. Not sure if he'll be available for the A&M game.
I can only assume that came after the interception.
I would think so. But obviously a pretty big loss for a defense that has kind of been struggling.
And against an offense who is very prolific.
Yeah, you look at Arkansas and you go, well, they're winless in SEC. This should just be a blowout win for Tech. Well, a lot of people don't think it's going to be a blowout win for Texas just because Texas has obviously struggled against lesser teams plenty this year. But if you actually just go look at what Arkansas has done this year, pretty much all of their games have been close.
Yeah.
Obviously, the A&M game was a field goal game. They lost by 1 possession to Tennessee, 1 possession to Ole Miss. Really, the only game where they've gotten blown out was Notre Dame. Ever since, what's his name, Petrino has taken over, they're the most competitive 2-8 team I've ever seen. I'll just put it that way. I mean, you look at their SEC schedule, 1 possession loss Ole Miss, Tennessee, like I said, 1 possession loss to A&M, they lost by 9 to Auburn, they lost by 3 to Mississippi State, and they lost by 1 to LSU. So every game but one has been 1 possession. The one game that wasn't 1 possession was a 9-point game to Auburn. So kind of just a weird
Yeah,
Very weird for Arkansas that it's so many one possession games. They just haven't been able to win any of them.
Yeah, and I was talking to my parents. They were obviously playing LSU this last weekend, and they came over for the Texas Georgia game, unfortunately. And we were having a spread, and I told my parents, I was like, yeah, we got Arkansas next week, and they're winless in SEC play. But the weird thing is I'm pretty sure they've either gone into the second half or the fourth quarter with a lead of some kind, or it be within one possession and then they lose by a couple of points. It's every game. It happens that way, and bound to win a game like that. At some point in time, you just win games eventually that way. After being in them for so long. The only good thing about this, Jake, is Texas has also been kind of battle tested within that same type of formula. Close games coming down to the end of the game, except Texas has come out on top the majority of the times in those games. So I think that's kind of where, and I do think that this offense will find the most success it's had all season long against this Arkansas team. I think the offense is going to run somewhat fairly smoothly, maybe even more smoothly than the Vanderbilt game for the first three quarters.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas's defense is the reason they've lost games. They have a top 15 offense in the country, I would say. And obviously Green is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. Texas is going to give up points. The offense is going to have to score 35 plus points to win this game, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I have no doubt Arkansas is going to score points in this game. So the offense needs to come out and perform like that, but they should. They should be able to have their way with this Arkansas defense. The run game should be able to work. The pass game should be able to work. And I want to see the team come out a little pissed off. They need to take that Georgia game personally. They need to take the way that fourth quarter happened personally and go out and dominate a game for 4 quarters. And ideally just dominate Arkansas, because if this game gets ugly early and it's close and it's just a slugfest, or it's just the defense can't get off the field, DKR is going to get very restless and the environment's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Now, especially with all the news about Sark and possibly leaving, it's going to turn very ugly very quickly.
Yeah, I also think Texas has played much better at home this season than they have on the road. They just haven't played at home hardly at all. A very small sample size of home games. But Texas does tend to play better at home, as does any team, than on the road. So I think that's also another advantage in favor of Texas going into this week. Sark, how many times in his career have we seen him lose back-to-back games that wasn't in year one? I don't know ever. I don't know if he's lost back-to-back games since that year one where he went 5 wins.
No. I mean, no.
It's hard to imagine that it happens this go around.
They lost 3 games last year. Georgia, Ohio State. Those were spread apart. The year before they lost 2 games?
2 games, I think. Yeah.
It was what, OU,
and then the playoff game to Washington. It hasn't lost back-to-back games since that first season. The second year, I'm not 100% sure. I don't think they did, though. And so you feel like surely this team is going to come out motivated. They have to feel like their playoff hopes aren't dead. Wild stat of the day. I texted it to you earlier. If Texas were to beat A&M, they would be the first team since 2019 to have 3 top 10 wins. And who is that 2019 team?
LSU.
National champions and possibly one of the greatest college football teams to ever play.
Yeah. So that Texas's schedule, we knew it was going to be tougher this year. It's obviously turned out to be a lot more difficult than we thought. But just to give a little perspective, think if they can close out the year 2-0 somehow, whether they make the playoff or not with that, I do think there can be a little appreciation had for the year. Will it feel like a success? No. because the bar for this program is the playoffs.
Well,
Steve Sarkisian has said that himself, that is the bar for this program. But I do think if you have wins over OU, wins over A&M, and you're a 9-win team with 3 top 10 wins, you really just look at that Florida game and shake your head. But also, I think there's a whole nother discussion. This will not be a discussion we have on this podcast tonight. That's, to me, where the discussion comes. Do you schedule big out-of-conference games like in Ohio State?
Well, we made that argument. We had this discussion last year. It won't be today because this conversation can honestly be a 30-minute long conversation, and you can point out every point of view. So again, it's not going to be tonight, but it will be had at some point in time, I believe. But we talked about it a little bit last year, Jake. The benefit of doing it is if you win those games like Texas did against Alabama, Texas is going to get that a little extra bump in terms of playing Alabama to make the college football playoffs like they did 2 years ago as the 3 seed, being a team that was actually ranked ahead of Alabama that year. And so there are the pros and cons to it. Some would argue that although Michigan wasn't a great team last year, Texas getting that win last year over Michigan elevated them and now they were going to get the playoffs regardless of that game, but winning that game kind of also helped elevate them. So I think does the pros outweigh the cons in terms of winning those big games compared to losing those big games? I honestly don't necessarily think so, to be completely honest with
I
you.
don't, not in the non-14 playoff format.
Yeah.
I think in the 14 playoff format, there's a much better argument for it because Texas, and if you're in a weaker conference, because Texas was in a weaker conference, and that's why that win against Alabama was so big and got them in the playoff. Otherwise, they would not, probably wouldn't have been in. They probably would take the easy route out and put Florida State in if Texas played Alabama A&M instead of Alabama.
Correct.
I think in the 12-team and eventually 16-team playoff, there is less of a reason to do it if you're not going to get in because you have a certain amount of losses. I'm not saying Texas deserves to be in if they're a 9-win team, but they would have the best resume you could pretty much possibly have as a 9-win team.
Yeah, but I will put this as the caveat, though, is if you lose to Ohio State, I don't think losing to Ohio State, losing to Georgia is what's keeping Texas out. It's the Florida game that's keeping Texas out.
No, but if Texas still lost to Florida, but played NC State week 1 and won, they would be in the playoff as of right now. No, they would. Look at Tennessee's schedules last year with 2 losses, and they had 2 bad losses, or at least 1 bad loss.
Well, and it's also hard to argue the last year to this year because the context of the other schedules around them and the other teams that were in or not in have different circumstances around their schedules as well. I mean, it's a different scenario. But yes, the point you're making to Tennessee's schedule last year would line up exactly kind of how Texas's season would line up this year, say if they won in NC State in week 1 and not in Ohio State.
Yeah, and so it's just it'll be interesting. I really hope Texas finishes the year for 2-0 for a multitude of reasons, but I
want the chaos. I bring on the chaos
to test what the committee will do because that resume is undeniably impressive, even with that Florida loss.
My favorite thing is, and we're going to hit underdog right after this statement, and we can continue this conversation because we're actually going to dive into the CFP rankings, and it kind of all ties in anyway. But the more pressure these college programs can put on the committee of making right or wrong choices to cause some type of chaos or to avoid some type of chaos or just kind of putting them a little bit on edge and applying the pressure on this committee, it might allow a quicker way out of this committee format that we have where the fate of all these college football programs in terms of making the playoffs or not making the playoffs lie in the hands of 10 old people that hardly watch the game. And so that's kind of where I'm like, I hope Texas wins this, not for the fact of beating Arkansas, beating A&M, and spoiling the undefeated season of Texas A&M and still having the bragging rights in that rivalry, which I desperately want still, by the way, but also the outside factors of it would apply a little bit of pressure to this committee to make a choice.
Yeah, and on your point about this committee, we haven't talked. We never talked about how the head of the committee stepped down just a couple weeks ago, which is a pretty crazy development to happen in the middle of the season.
And also for it to pretty much go under the radar. I haven't really heard anybody talking about it.
Yeah, I haven't really seen it talked about at all. And it's like, well, how's all that going to go down? And just kind of how the committee is basically made up of athletic directors, and there's just so much conflict of interest with it. And it's not people who are watching the games, watching every single game. So yeah, there's we could do a whole week worth of conversation about our thoughts on the current playoff system and how it could be improved. But I think we did a good job kind of just doing a big picture thoughts on it for now.
Absolutely. All right. When we come back, we'll talk a little underdog and some higher lowers that we may or may not like, and kind of see where we're at on our all-in horns entry. I don't think we have any picks quite yet. We haven't had the full slate of available entries made to us yet, but when that does come available, we will have it right here for you on All In Horns.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code HORNS to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code HORNS. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 and up. 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games. 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details.
All right, Jake, let's take a look at some of the lines that have been made available, including Texas, Arkansas. Just real quickly, the only entry available for Texas, Arkansas, 2:30 kickoff on Saturday, by the way. Arch Manning with 258.5 passing yards, higher, lower. Do you like that number?
Think so, because I don't trust this offense's running game, even against Arkansas's defense.
If Texas is going to have success, it will solely rely on Arch Manning's ability to pass the football.
That's certainly what it feels like. And so I think I like that line. That is a lot. But also, I mean, Arch has been playing really well. And I feel like the wide receivers are going to bounce back. This should be a big passing game from the offense. I think I'm probably going to I'm so hesitant to put anything on an all-in horns entry right now. I'm a little just
I would support you. I'd support you if you did Arch Manning.
At least if I'm wrong, then I can be like, hey, at least I was betting on Arch Manning. You know,
hey,
at least I was.
We don't have a whole lot more left of this college football season in terms of Texas Longhorn fans. At least the percentage is very low to have a lot more games following the next two. So, it's just kind of one of those things, Jake, where if we're going to do it, I say let's go all in on it.
Yeah, I think I like Arch Manning. I think that'll be on the card, and then we'll see what else comes up on the ticket. But I like that line with Arch Manning. So I guess that can be our pick of the day. Yeah, since we don't have a full ticket put together yet, we still got to kind of crunch. So it may be until the end of the week when we really have one. We gotta lock in this week.
That, and also, I mean, kudos to Underdog, all the things, but it takes a little bit of time for all the games to become available and all the entries to become available. So, all right, Jake, let's go ahead and let's talk a little bit of the College Football Playoff Committee rankings. They just were released earlier yesterday. Right now, You've got Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Georgia, Texas Tech at number 5, Ole Miss at number 6, Oregon 7, Oklahoma number 8, Notre Dame 9. Alabama only drops to 10. Miami has that ACC 13 spot. And then Tulane, who is ranked at number 24, is the G5 team, not the higher ranked JMU.
Yeah, man, I was hoping it would be JMU, just for the fun of it at this point. And, a little bit more unknown in JMU. Miami jumping back up there, I think, is probably the biggest talking point.
Yeah.
I think the other biggest talking point just of the week in general is what's going to happen in that Oregon USC game. Because USC probably jumps back in the playoff picture if they beat Oregon. And I don't think this Oregon team is as good as some of the previous teams. And I think they actually are in danger of losing a game like that. And I actually wouldn't mind Oregon not being in this playoff because I just don't think they're that good of a team this year and wouldn't do that well in the playoff.
Well, Jake, you and I, we've talked about how miserable this playoff has the potential of being just for you and I as college football fans and the fandoms and dislikes that we have, the bias that we have of teams that are currently in. I've never liked Ohio State. I've hated them since the Troy Smith, Bobby Carpenter days of Ohio State. And so I've never liked Ohio State. Indiana's a cool team. Obviously, I have a bias towards Texas A&M. Would never root for them. As a Texas fan, I hate Georgia with all my heart right now. It's hard to like them. Texas Tech, another team. Texas has a very not, I wouldn't say not great history, a dominating history, but there is a rivalry there between Texas and Texas Tech. At number 6, Ole Miss, yeah, whatever. Don't care about that one really all that much. Oregon, again, indifferent. But then you've got obviously the Red River rival in Oklahoma, and then the team who I don't think anybody likes aside from Notre Dame fans in Notre Dame. Brian Kelly made sure that nobody liked that program for about a decade plus. And then, Miami is what it is and Tulane's what it is. But a vast majority of these teams, Jake, I have a rooting interest in rooting against these teams in almost every single game.
Yeah, I mean, with this, I would be for Indiana to win it all, and it's not even close.
Without
it's
doubt.
Not even close because the next closest would be Tulane, and that's just not happening.
They're not getting past round one.
So. I mean, I guess the good news is Texas. I mean, I think a lot of it would be cleaned up in the second game. Notre Dame or Oklahoma have 0 shot against Ohio State. Texas Tech would get the doors blown off of them by Georgia.
The problem is I think Bama would beat Oregon, and then Bama, Indiana. That would be a really fun game. I think I don't know. I'm trying to look past the logo and try to just watch
I
these
really
two
do
teams.
think Indiana could win that game. I really do.
And I'm not saying they don't stand a chance because I definitely think they do have a good chance at winning it. They've just struggled the last couple of weeks. They didn't look great against Wisconsin. They haven't looked great in the last couple of weeks against teams that I would have thought that they would just be blowing the doors off of them. And so I don't know if it's just trying to get to that final stretch, get to those final games, and then they can kind of turn it back on. Or if they're just maybe running out of gas a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see come the Big Ten championship game, assuming they get into that. That'll be the real test of where Indiana's at. If they're a legit title contender, what's that Ohio State Indiana game look like? I'm looking forward. I mean, that'll be the most. That'll be probably the only conference championship game I watch every second of.
Would it be weird or bad or just playing out just incorrect of me to say I could still see Indiana being a championship contender if they lose by 14 to Ohio State?
No, I mean, losing by 14 to Ohio State, there's really no shame in right now.
Yeah.
And also Indiana should end up on the other side of the bracket from Ohio State. I certainly would hope Indiana doesn't get punished down to like a 4 or 5 seed if they're undefeated and then lose to Ohio State in a conference championship game.
Well, we saw that last year where no teams that made the conference championships really got punished for losing those conference championship games who were in the top 4. So,
yeah, I mean, Texas would have swung if they won, but they didn't really get punished for it. And so I don't think Indiana would either. And they shouldn't. This year's Indiana team isn't last year's Indiana team. I think they're a lot better team, A, and then B, they have that win at Oregon is 15 times better than any win they had last year. That's a win over a current playoff team. I don't think any other one of these teams has a win. A&M has a win over Notre Dame, which Notre Dame shouldn't even be in the playoffs, so it doesn't really count. But yeah, I will say the least interesting game, and maybe this is me being a hater, I could care less about watching OU and Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's a you and me just don't like.
Also,
those
that's
two
just
teams.
playing to lose to Ohio State.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think the least like entertaining game in terms of it being close would be Tulane and Texas Tech. I just don't see that game being like.
I could see Tech blowing it. Tech's capable of doing stupid stuff.
You're
like
not
that.
wrong, but I don't see it personally. Now, would I be rooting for Tulane? Absolutely, I would be. And Tulane, they've actually come up big in bowl games, like postseason success. They've actually had quite a bit of it in recent memory. But yeah, no, the 2 games that Tulane's lost this year, it's just not been good games. So
Yeah.
I don't see that one necessarily being entertaining, but I do think the other games I think would be like closely contested, tight football games, much better than last year's first round.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that's because of the format change.
Correct.
The format made the first games last year so wonky.
Yeah.
Because you had teams who shouldn't have been playing in the first round hosting games. It really is that simple.
Boise
And then
State
you
being
got
a top 4 team was crazy.
Yeah, Boise State and Arizona State getting buys threw it out of whack. It just did. And then this year you're not going to have that. But yeah, it'll be fun to watch the playoffs this year if I can bear myself to watch it. If we have a playoff that comprises of 3 teams, or really like 4 teams, actually no, like 5 or 6 teams, I just hate.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot on there that I just enjoy rooting for or even watching play, like at all.
Yeah, but it's exciting that we're getting close, and I hope that chaos happens. Hopefully OU can drop a game. I really don't. I'm being a hater. I really don't think OU belongs in the playoff. They got dominated by Alabama. They won the game. They got dominated.
No, yeah.
I mean, they got doubled up in yardage and doubled up in first downs. Like, they got dominated. Alabama threw away that game to them. Good win for them. All that stuff. I just don't want to watch them in the playoff. I don't think they're a playoff caliber team.
If Notre Dame and OU don't deserve playoff spots, who are you putting in instead? I'm just curious if you have other teams.
Put me on the spot without me being able to.
Okay.
Think about.
Let's.
I'm opening it up. I'll have
It wasn't about like to show you up or anything. I'm just genuinely curious what other teams would you have in.
I mean, it depends what happens in the ACC, really, because Georgia Tech could very much be in. They're still 9-1.
Yeah.
A USC, if they beat an Oregon, would probably be deserving, even though I wouldn't love to see them in. It would be funny if USC made it in instead of OU, just because it would be very funny for obvious reasons.
And I think that Alabama win is going to carry some weight for Oklahoma.
If Oklahoma drops another game, they're probably out.
No. Yeah, if they drop a game, then there's no chance that they can make. An Oklahoma 9-3 is different than a Texas 9-3. I'm sorry, that's just fact.
Well, it's fact because Texas has the head-to-head, and the committee has shown that they care about the head-to-head. If OU drops another game, Texas would be in over them. And OU probably not. I mean, they play Missouri and LSU, but Missouri with no quarterback against that defense, I don't see that happening. And then LSU is horrible, but we'll see if maybe LSU can show some pride. They're also both in Norman. So we'll see what happens, but luckily the playoff will work itself out because I will say I think once you get past spot 6 and 7, it's just a bunch of teams that I don't think are playoff caliber outside of maybe Alabama, but Alabama also just has a way of beating themselves or just not showing up for a game.
Yeah. Under Kalen DeBoer, they have a tendency to just lay an egg once every blue moon. And we saw it more so last year than this year. And again, he's still building that program out. He's only in year 2. And he's probably going to be a playoff team this year, I would imagine. But Alabama, Auburn, I don't ever throw the Iron Bowl as just an automatic win for any of those two teams. I've seen both teams win in insane fashion. So the Iron Bowl is not just a walk-in win for Alabama by any means either.
No. So it's going to be fun. I'm hoping for just a lot of chaos.
Same. At this point, I'm just everybody lose the game.
And chaos helps Texas. I mean, if Texas has a shot to get in the playoff, I want them in the playoff. Whether I think they're a good enough team to be in the playoff this year, well, I don't think OU is either. So there's
would
going to
you
be
rather
teams,
be watching OU or would you rather be watching Texas?
I'd rather be watching Texas, even if they lose in the first round. I don't care. At least you made it. I mean, does that mean it's a successful season? No. But it at least means you made the playoff and you get to live to have some hope. That's what sports is about. It's about getting some hope and then getting your absolute heart ripped out of your chest and wanting to die.
Yeah, that's
that sports for every single team, but one team at the end of it. Every other team, that is the cycle.
Yep. And at some point in time, you're going to have your heart broken at some point in the season, whether it's in the championship game in a loss, or it's the first round of the playoffs, or you don't get to make the playoffs.
Unless you are Nick Saban's Alabama, you are going to experience heartbreak more than you're going to experience the pure joy of winning a national championship.
Imagine being all those New England Patriot Alabama fans out there for that 20-year stretch.
Yeah, that are also LeBron fans. Well, actually, with LeBron fans, they experience a lot more losing.
Well, I would imagine they would be Steph Curry fans because it was the Steph Curry era of basketball, not the LeBron era.
That is factual. I'm sure we won't trigger anyone with that. They're still listening, but but yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch how everything shakes out. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty because there's a lot of 2-loss teams in there. Oregon, if they drop a game, I know there'll be a 2-loss Oregon team, but they don't have any impressive wins.
No.
And I think there'd have to be a real conversation about a 2-loss Oregon team whose best win is Iowa.
It feels like it feels like there's a lot of teams that are just crawling to the finish line, just hoping and praying,
just hanging on by a strand. I mean, Texas is hanging on by a strand to some playoff hopes because they aren't dead yet. They aren't. There's not. They're only at 17. That's not that far away from being in,
12.
Especially if that involves a top 5 win to end the season. They got to take care of Arkansas first. It's not going to be easy, especially with Anthony Hill out and what Arkansas brings offensively. But I'm excited to see this all play out, and I feel like we finally are going to get a lot of fun games to end the year here.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. That's Jake Jimerson. I'm Tanner Carlson. As always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.